I'll like talk and stuff and make things happen. And oh, cool. Am I making squiggly sounds? That's it. Okay. Oh, I'm live. Haha. Someday I will actually go live with like skill and grace, but not today. So welcome to On Set on the what is today? The February.
Wow. January.
January 26th. Yeah, we're starting off. Let's just start that over.
Hi.
Hey, I'm Daniel Norton. Thanks for coming on set. This is January 26th. I'm saying the date now because I'm hoping this is that we're going to actually be able to leave these online at some point. We're working towards that. Yeah. I don't know if saying the date makes any difference at all, but I feel like that's a thing that I should do. So it is January 26th, 2017 in New York City. This is Dave. I'm Daniel Norton, if I didn't say that already. Now I screwed up my intro because I'm changing it.
Yeah. You can't do change.
I can't ever make a change. I've been doing the same intro for like a year, and now I change it. It throws me off. So today we're talking about the store is packed with people for this one. It's been one of those days. It's actually nice weather. Maybe people are outside like chilling out. But we're running a little bit behind. So this is me stalling until everything gets plugged in. I put my computer backwards today just to mess with you. No, I didn't actually. It's still the other way.
You have two Thunderbolt ports?
No, just one. Oh crap. Okay. Oops, I said crap online. Stand by. Don't unplug that.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
So today we're going to talk about computers. I decided to save time and effort by having go directly to my hard drive, but apparently I can't do that because I only have one Thunderbolt port in my computer. And then you won't be able to see what we're doing, and I'm assuming that you want to see the photos as we go. So let me quickly deal with that.
We'll make this into a marketing issue, and then we'll get you a new computer.
Yeah. So if Apple wants to give me a computer with two Thunderbolt ports, and you're watching right now, there you go. If not, well, that's life, I guess. Yeah, this is a pretty old computer. Okay, anyways, so we're going to start again. Pretend like none of that happened yet. Here we go. We're starting again. Okay, we can just edit that, right? Oh, no, we're live, so we can't edit. No. Okay, good. So welcome to On Set. Hey, John. John's going to get me a new computer soon. Well, he's not getting it for me. I have to pay for it, but he's already told me what I need. I'm putting my pennies in my... I should start one of those GoFundMes. Yeah. Daniel needs a new computer, and even though I totally could just buy one, I'm just way too cheap. So if people could just give me money, feel free.
That would be great.
For no apparent reason.
Much appreciated.
On that note, Jordan, if you're watching, I never got my drawing. Did you ever get your drawing from Jordan?
Yeah.
What's up with that? Anyways, I just shamed Jordan online. There we go. He's shamed. You don't know Jordan, do you? Oh, I miss Jordan. Jordan Miles, the infamous Jordan Miles. Anyways, that's lots of weird stuff that we're talking about that has nothing to do with the thing as I waste time, and here we go, ready to start. So, welcome to On Set.
Very good set.
Sorry, there was all kinds of weird things going on there, but we're going to do high and low key lighting today. Actually, going to spend a little bit of time talking first, and then we're going to set up some lighting scenarios, and we'll kind of go through it, and I'll show you guys basically how to set up these various lighting scenarios. So, high key and low key is one of those terms. I always say low key so fast that it sounds like Loki, which is the bad guy in one of the Thor movies, right? Do you watch the superhero movies? You like those superhero movies? No? No, not a big thing for you? No. Okay, that's okay. Me neither. Anyways, high key lighting is most people, when they think about high key lighting, they think about what? Exactly. White background. That's what people usually think. High key, it's on a white background. That's not technically what high key lighting is. High key lighting actually has to do with contrast, and low key has to do with contrast ratios. High key lighting is low contrast lighting, right? So if you were, let's say, to light a room and you were to light it high key, that would mean that, generally speaking, the lighting would be. You could also possibly use the term flat. It would be very low contrast lighting. This is super useful for certain kinds of things, especially in filmmaking where you're doing, let's say, a sitcom. A sitcom is almost always high key because it's pretty evenly lit wherever they're walking around. It's very open. You can see into the background. Your overall light is very even, we'll say, right? Low contrast. Low key, on the other hand, is high contrast, right? Oftentimes people think about low key I'll walk through the process of setting up Capture One too, since we weren't able to do it. Often low-key lighting is, people think about that low-key lighting when they're using, like, let's say a black background, right? This is like how still photographers like to think about these things. And while that's probably exactly what we're going to do today, again, low-key lighting is about contrast, so it doesn't have to be a black background. Oftentimes you'll see something where it's like very stark and like small bits of light on somebody. That's low-key, right? So let's say like in a horror movie or where you're doing like a very, very dark room where just the person's standing out, or that kind of stuff is often where you're going to fall with low-key lighting. So I'm going to use a gray background because we're still using up our paper from 2016. We're only allowed one roll of paper per year. And I'm doing pretty good on this one. So we might actually get, when the time comes, we'll do like a ceremony one week where we switch the paper. But I think we've been doing pretty good. Yeah, we'll live stream the paper being switched. It'll be pretty awesome. But yeah, I've had this paper now since most of the year. I can't remember when we actually got it. Somehow I finagled getting it after we did something with the blue screen. There was a reason why we needed a blue screen for something. And then after that, I got the gray paper, which was nice. We did a blue screen because we were doing a stop motion video that we did, which was really fun. Actually, that was just about a year ago because it was for WPPI, I think. Or it was for NAB. It was for one of the shows anyways. Because it was about drones. Anyways, that's a whole other thing. If you guys are interested in that, let me know and we'll do something on blue screen / green screen in the future. But today we're doing high and low key lighting. So we're going to use flash equipment today. I find that if you're lighting in this way, flash is very, very useful. The main reason for that is flash gives you a lot of control, right? If I use constant light sources, which can be used for this, I'm not saying you can't, I was just talking about filmmaking, then I have to be very wary about any of the light in my space affecting my shot, right? So if I want the light to be low contrast and I have a lot of high contrast lights affecting my shot, then I'm battling those lights, which means I might have to add lots of extra lights or that kind of stuff. So by using flash equipment, we're actually able to eliminate that light pretty easy because flash is so much more powerful than constant lights when it comes down to it. We're going to basically do something we do every time we use flash, so I'll go through it one more time just like we always do, because I feel like this is the thing that as you get to use flash more and more, this will just become, you won't even think about it, you're just going to do it because it's just every single time. We want to set up a scenario where when we make a photo right now, we will get a black frame, meaning that none of the ambient light that you see, none of this light here, none of the, I guess we'll leave the windows open. We can probably do that, right? We'll get away with that. Windows open, whatever, we don't care. We're wild. So none of that light's going to affect our shot. And the way that we do that is we set our ISO as low as it can go within the normal range of the camera. So in this case, with the Canon 5D that is 100 ISO, right? We then set our shutter speed at the maximum shutter speed in which your camera can synchronize with a flash. Now, there is such a thing called high-speed sync, but we're going to pretend like that doesn't exist because not every system has it, so this is like a very basic rule. Knowing that number, which is 1/200th of a second, those two things we can dial in no matter where we go. No matter where I am, those two numbers are constant. 200th of a second, 100 ISO. The third factor in the exposure triangle, as they call it, it's like the Bermuda Triangle. Nobody talks about the Bermuda Triangle anymore. Do you even know what that is? Yes. Okay, all right, I wasn't sure. Rosie knows. I'm not going to make you tell me. I believe you if you say that you knew. You could have just totally lied. I'm not going to ask you, Deck. Actually, do you want to hear the explanation of the Bermuda Triangle? Tune in later. We're going to live stream that. You'll do it for us later? Like a speech about it?
I didn't hear that was in the job description.
No, well, that's fine. You can do it. Listen, you're an actor?
I am.
Yep, actors say yes always, because that's the good actor. It's like, I can do that, 100%. Good, I like that. You're going places, kid. What was it? Exposure triangle. So, the final piece in your exposure triangle is your aperture, right? What aperture do we need to set it on to get our black frame? We don't know, right? It depends on where you are. If I'm standing outside, if I'm in a dark room, if I'm here in Adorama, it's going to be different. Now, you can figure it out a lot of different ways. You can use light meter, which we do have today, because I'm going to use a light meter later, but we're not going to do that. The most simple way to do it is literally just to use either the meter in your camera, right? There's a little meter in your camera. Just look at it and dial it so it's all the ways, usually cameras have a 3-stop range, so it's all the ways underexposed by 3 stops, right? That gets rid of all your ambient light, for the most part. Or you can literally just set your aperture somewhere in the middle and take a picture. Take a look at it. So if we're going to set it somewhere around, like, let's say f8, which is where we normally set it. I think that's where we are. Yep, f8. So we're going to set it at f8, right? We're going to make a photo at f8. If our if our frame is black, then we're doing good, right? If it is not, if we take a photo at f8 and there's light in it, like let's say if we were standing in the street, I guarantee you you'd be able to see something because it's much brighter outside. So if that's the case, you close down your lens. You take another photo until you get a black frame, right? That's basically the procedure. If you put it at f8, let's say you're standing in your apartment or inside of a studio and you shoot it into black frame, you could then, if you want, go to like, let's say a 5.6, do another one, an f4, do another one, and you only need to be as closed down as you need to be to get it to be a black frame. That's all you need, right? You don't need it to be f8 per se, unless you just want that. Now, one other final thing that I like to do, I'm tethered here to Capture One in my little MacBook. So one thing that's great about being tethered is that I can then take my photo that Dave just made, this black frame right here, and I'm going to go over to my my editing stuff, right? So I'm going to grab my exposure slider, just like if you shot a picture that was underexposed and you wanted to adjust it, I'm going to drag it over until I start to see stuff. Wow, I don't see nothing. Well, I see nothing. Good. That's fantastic. If you drag it over and you start to see things, as long as you're at least 2 to 3 stops, maybe more, 3 stops is usually a good place to be, underexposed, then you're probably good. The reason why I say that, and not just like a 1 stop or barely underexposed, is because you may want to do some shadow recovery in your post work, and you don't want to like do half a stop of shadow recovery and then start bringing back the room lights, because that's going to throw off, oh, hey, I haven't seen you in forever. It's Dina. Good. How exciting. I was just thinking about you for something too, and I can't remember what it was. I'll think of, not in that way. No, it was something photographic. Lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Yes, you're good. Good. Shadow recovery. If you have to do a lot of shadow recovery, then that's going to be a problem. Now, if you end up in a situation where you need to do like 2 or 3 stop shadow recovery, you probably shouldn't use that frame. This is not a good exposure. So that'll put you in a safe zone. So now that we've established that, now we want to set up our lighting. We want to set up, do we want to do high key first or low key? No. Oh, wow, you guys don't have a high key first? High key. All right, step up. This is Rosie. Rosie is a Juilliard trained, step a little bit forward. It's on it, yeah. You got to be in front of the line. Actress. You can see her at rosie.com.
Actually, there was a rosiesoa.com for a while. I'm working on it, though.
She's working on it. That's how you know that she's an actor. They're always working on their website. They never have one. They're always just working on it. I say that I have not updated my website in like 3 years. So, but hey, once you're like old enough, not that I'm old, but once you're old enough, you don't have to update it a lot because like things aren't really changing.
You want to start with the backlights?
Yeah. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to create a white background type high key shot because that's what people came here for. And we're going to do it manually because I feel like being manual today. Where's that light meter?
That is right behind me.
Cool. So I'm going to use a light meter today because the light meter company, what kind of light meter is it? Sekonic paid me. No, they didn't. They should pay me, but this is one of those fancy ones that looks like an iPhone. So let's see if I figure out how to work it. This is the Sekonic 478D for Daniel. And essentially the way a light meter works is with this kind of light meter, which is an instant meter, right? It's got a little dome on it. It's reading the amount of light that's hitting my subject, right? So if I want to get an accurate reading to get an exposure of Rosie, I will take my light meter and I will put it in front of her and I will point it at the light. The light will then fire the light and the meter will then give me a reading. That reading is based on the amount of light falling on the subject. It reads to what people might have heard the term 18% gray. That's what it's doing. It's making it neutral, right? It doesn't matter. I know this is the thing. I get this question a lot, so I'm going to say it. It doesn't matter who's standing here, right? I mean, it matters to you. If I take this reading and it reads whatever it reads, if I stand there, if Rosie stands there, if you stand there, Chewy stands there, they will be properly exposed because it is reading the amount of light falling on the subject. You do not have to adjust your camera in any way based on what they're wearing, their skin tone, for this to work. If you are doing a reflected reading, like using the meter in your camera, that may become a factor. Okay, because I get that question a lot. Like, let's say I'm shooting somebody with dark skin. Well, who cares? Like, this is going to be the proper exposure, unless you don't want them to look the way they look in life. So you don't have to worry about that. And why am I bringing that up now? Because if I use this meter, and I meter my wall, and I set my camera to be that exposure, what color is my wall going to be? Gray, because my paper is gray. I want it to be white, right? So in order for me to do that, I need to overexpose it. So there is this kind of rough idea of overexposing it by about a stop. So we'll start there. We're going to read the wall, and we're going to overexpose it. And then I'm going to show you a little trick that I stole from Gavin Hoey. Thank you, Gavin. The best thing you can do in photography is to steal stuff from other people. It's key. So basically, let me just walk through the meter. Oh, you already have it set up. Dave's good. All right, so here's my meter. And you can see here that, is that too close? You can see here that this is my ISO, right? And then that's my shutter speed. I already dialed those in. And I am in flash mode right there. So what that means is when I push the button, you can see the little flashes flashing. Flash is flashing. That means it's waiting for a flash. So what I'm going to do is Dave's going to use the remote, and he's going to fire the flashes. So we have the flashes set in the middle, which is half power. I'm going to try not to block any of the light. That's important. And I'm just going to read the background, just like that. And I'm getting 2.50, right? That means the place the lights are set at right now, I'm going to be pretty underexposed, right? So we want to turn the lights up. Probably have to turn them all the way. We're going to blast these guys
You gotta go to 9.
to 9. Boom. And we're going to do it again. 10.2. So that's just almost a stop overexposed. Just under a stop. We'll try that. Now, we only have these lights firing. We're going to take an exposure. Again, our camera is set at f8 at 200th of a second. We're exposing the background at 10.2, so slightly overexposed. We should get a whitish background. Yeah. It's not totally even because we just kind of put the lights there. We'll back them up a little bit like this. Use umbrellas here too, which would make it a little bit more even. But I don't think we need to do that for this. Obviously, the larger your background is, the more you gotta worry about it being.
We probably have to cross them a little more too.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you want to do here is point your lights so that the light on this side is more or less pointing at the opposite side. Okay? You don't want your light on camera left to light the left side. You want it to light across the background. You do that so you don't get what we have here, which is two blobs of light, right? If they cross, you're going to get more or less an even exposure in the center. So we adjust them slightly. Let's take another exposure. The light might start to hit her now because we're in kind of a small space. Yeah, she's just going to have to step forward a little bit probably to avoid that. Okay. Okay, so that's all the juice we have. So because that's all we have for exposure-wise and we need to get a white background, what we're probably going to have to do here is now open up our aperture a little bit. And we have to be careful, right? Because we had the, we can go at least a stop. Because remember, when I pulled it over, we had like 4 stops. So we can go a stop with the aperture and go to 5.6, right? Now, one of the benefits of doing this, by the way, if you're trying to be like economical with your lights, one thing that I do a lot, and we might do today, is see how light's getting on her face there? We don't really want that, but if we let a little bit of that light kind of come forward to the sides, we can get a kind of a little bit of separation light, which can sometimes be a little bit nice, adds a little three-dimensionality. So where I could easily just flag the light here, I think we might want to let a little bit of this light bleed over. We'll see, just so it gets a little bit in her hair. This works especially well if they have dark hair. If they don't have dark hair, then, like in her case, she's got blonde-ish hair. So it could blow out, and if it does, we'll have to be careful with that. Yeah, see how we're getting a little bit of separation light? She's getting a smidge on her face. I think she can just step forward, just for the point of this. demo, so we're not just spending the whole day trying to make that happen. Dave's adjusting the light slightly. And the idea here, again, is we're just trying to get even light across the background, and we're overexposing it to make it white. Now, one thing you want to be careful of, which let's do one more shot and we'll test it. Dave's just testing the angles of the lights here. One thing you want to be careful of when you're doing this is to not get essentially flare from the background. Because if you think about it, when you're light in the background like this, the background itself, because you're overexposing it, is becoming a light source. Light is hitting the background and it is bouncing back and hitting our subject, right? It's a giant light source. If we were to turn her around and come on this side and shoot it, we're not going to do it. Dave doesn't move that much. We don't pay him enough to do that. So if I was to do that, she would have this beautiful even light on her because I'd have this giant source of light lighting her, right? Maybe we'll do that later. We could probably do that. We could do it, but not in a second. If you overexpose it too much, you will get lens flare, right? Because you're shooting into a light. And lens flare might be recorded as just like very minorly, and all that will do is just soften your image and make it less sharp. And we know that modern photographers hate pictures that aren't sharp. So you do not want an unsharp image. So what we want to do is make sure we're not getting any lens flare. How do we do that? The simplest way to do it is to read the back of her head. We're essentially reading this light, right? Once we do that, it is f4. As long as, boom, can't see it because you didn't switch it. As long as this number is not greater than our aperture on our camera, we will not get lens flare. We're at f4.2, we're set at 5.6, we have no lens flare because there's not enough light reaching our lens. That's all you gotta do, read the back of her head. And by that example, the other thing you can do is if you don't want to bother reading the background, if you just make this light exactly the same exposure as that, you'll almost always have a white background, unless you're dealing with like a really, really dark background. Just because if enough light is bouncing from the background to light her equal to your exposure, it's going to be overexposed, right? So instead of reading the background, if for some reason you couldn't, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to, you could actually read the back of her head and make sure if it was 5.6, let's say in this case, we would know our background to be white for sure, no matter how dark the background is. For the most part. I mean, if you put Duvetine back there, no. But, you know, for most things.
The background, not quite all the way clipping white.
Yeah. Also, this, where we're set right now, is not clipping. That's the point that Dave's making. We don't necessarily want to clip the background. In other words, super overexpose it. If we do that, then oftentimes, if you're uneven, that shows up even more. But also, you're going to end up tweaking the image anyways. You can just bring up the contrast slightly in post. It's easier to do that. If you overexpose the background so much that it's clipping, I virtually guarantee you that you will have flare because there's just too much light hitting the background. So that's another way to test it. If you're clipping, let's say you didn't have a handheld light meter and you're just doing it up by the eye, if your background's like flashing white, that's too exposed. You want to get just to the point before that, right? And I think we're pretty much there. It's white. It's white. Also, by the way, you didn't know you were going to get this today, bonus class, how to make a silhouette. See that? You like that? Can you do those dances like the old iPhone commercials?
What? I don't know what that dance
What?
is.
Oh, you don't know how to dance? Oh, you didn't know the
What?
commercial?
I don't know the iPhone.
Was it iPhone or was it
It was iPod.
iPod?
Yeah.
Do you remember those? The old iPod, and there was just some.
Oh, yeah.
They were just dancing, and it was like a.
They're just going,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, like a robot type.
well, and they did like other dances.
I'm sure that they danced much better than I could, so I'm not going to try to demonstrate it.
Incidentally, we've made a low-key image.
Yes, this is also, by the way, low key, as Dave points out. Why is it low key? Because it's high contrast. This is the opposite of what most people assume for a low key image, but it's still look. Hey, Tina. Tina's leaving us, so we got cake for her. She's starting her own store, Tina-rama. No, it's not true. I don't know about that. Maybe she is. That's actually not true. Maybe she is. I mean, who knows? An Etsy store. She makes cameras by hand and puts them on Etsy. Do you have an Etsy store?
I do not have an Etsy
Oh,
store.
that's
no.
too bad.
I shop from other people.
I love Etsy. Do you guys shop on Etsy? You do.
Etsy's free.
No, you don't do Etsy? I love Etsy. Etsy is where all my gifts come from. If you ever get a gift from me, it'll be from Etsy. Anyways,
It's much more personal.
yeah. And I'm not talking about like the vintage stuff where people just go and like buy stuff from old people and oversell it. I'm talking about when people make something, you know, like they knit it. Because I'm not good at knitting. You know, it's not a skill I have. Okay, so now we want to light her face. At this point too, here's one place where we can go crazy with the lighting, right? I put a grid on here to control the spill of light for the next shot, but we don't have to worry about that because if we're lighting her and she's not crazy overexposed, then we know that any additional light that's hitting the background, who cares, right? Our background's white. We don't care about that. So we can take the grid off if we want. Let's do that.
And
We can put the light wherever we want.
do you want to do like the overhead?
Yeah, let's do that.
Um,
More or less. We're gonna put the light more, since we're only using one light, we're gonna put it more or less centered on her, kind of in the middle. That's always nice. What is that, cake? There's been a lot of YouTube comments that I'm getting fat. So I'm now taking a diet.
It was actually me, secretly.
It probably was you, I can believe it. Tina's husband is also named Daniel and works here as well. And she often yells at him during my things. So I think that she's talking to me. So if you ever hear me just like talking to somebody, that's probably Tina. So anyways, we're hanging the light in the middle. Any questions so far? Pretty simple. So this is really simple. Again, now our goal here is to create, if we're truly creating a low, high key image, we want to keep it relatively low contrast. So we're not going to, bless you, we're not going to, we're going to try to keep our shadows to the minimum. So I'm using a relatively large light source. We might even use a reflector fill underneath. We want to keep it to truly be high key. If we're sticking to that, we want to keep it relatively low contrast. So if you do this and then you light it really high contrast, you just light her eyeball or something, that's low key. Even though the background's white. I know it's freaky, but that's just the way it is. They don't teach you that in photo school. Maybe they do teach you that in photo school. I'm not really sure. Did you go to photo school? No? You're here. I know, yeah, me too. I went to photo school. It was fun. Actually, when I was in school for photography, I went to an art school, and I wanted to be a fashion photographer, and my main professor hated fashion. Hated it. Whew. That was fun, but, you know, we did it. Not that she didn't like clothes. She didn't like the fashion industry. She probably liked clothes. I'm not sure she wore clothes every day. Any questions? It's very quiet today in here. Very chill audience. You don't have a question? After you eat, you have the questions. None online either. Okay. We're hanging out. We're just waiting for Dave to do the light.
okay.
All right. So Dave did. I could have helped him, but we'll do that. All right. So at this point, since we're in manual, we're just going to use the light. Now we're using the Pro Photo lights today. I don't know if I mentioned that. And they do have what's that?
I should have looked at what power was. That's okay.
Well, there's a couple ways to do it. We could just turn these off and then do a TTL exposure. We'll do it manually though. So basically, it has a little controller on top that allows us to turn the power up and down. So we're going to do it just like the backlights. We're going to basically take the meter, and I'm going to point it at the light source from her nose. And Dave's going to fire it. And it says 1.8. That seems really low. Try that again. Yeah, a lot. Couple stops anyways.
Huh?
Couple stops anyways. You can, do the math there for me. Is that 3 stops?
Probably. Let's see.
Yeah, because 1.8 is roughly F2, right? 2, 2, 8, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 3 stops. 3.5.
Yeah, let me go up at a half.
By the way, people love when you put this in their face. I'm sorry you haven't tried to take it yet. Did you try to take it the first time and then you're 7?
Oh, okay.
So 7 is more than 5.6, right? What's that, like a half stop too much?
Yeah,
Okay. 6.3, can be a little bit less. Still, hold on to it again. I blame Rosie. 5.02, so we're like almost there. Do 2/10. Essentially, we're just bringing it up and down until there we go. 5.6, exactly. Right? And now we're there. So that's how you use a light meter. It's pretty simple. It's literally just a matter of adjusting the lights until you get the exposure that you want.
Without the backlights.
And then we're just shooting the light on her, right? So now this is just the front light. It's always a good idea when you're introducing new lights to just see what that light's doing. So in this case, this is what the front light's doing, and this is now creating what is kind of a low-key image.
We'll probably want to tilt your head up a little
Right.
bit when we, I think.
We could actually just do this and then like in Photoshop, just go in there and, no, we won't do that. Right? We're a little shadowy under our chin. I might add a reflector. Or I do a little bit of chin up. You know, we'll see.
Almost
We're gonna add all the lights.
parallel with the
Maybe we should, do we have a reflector?
light. Not quite like
There's one right there.
half the.
Yeah, we'll add a reflector. Let's see. First, Dave's trying to do it with a
All right, let me turn on
welcome.
the backlights.
Yeah, let's turn everything on now. Now we've got all the lights turned on. And there you go. Yeah, I think we can probably have her keep her chin more level and then just add a reflector.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
So we'll add a reflector, mostly because the feel of this light, you know, let's do silver first because it's already silver. This might be too big. No, it fits. Okay, so when you're using a reflector, I like to do that to Dave. So when you're using a reflector, you want to get it as close as possible, but also make sure that the light's hitting it. I know that sounds like obvious, but it's not. So I'm looking at my light. The softbox is setting light out like this, so I want my reflector to be, like if it was really low, like if it, let's say I put it way down here, I'd have to be so careful to get the light on it. Up here, anywhere from like, if I put just under her chest area, we should probably get plenty of light kicking back up on her face. I'm using silver to start with. It might be too much. The silver is going to be kind of specular. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Sometimes we want to go with white. It depends on the look. We could actually try white as well. The silver's kind of nice though, because it's giving us a big open. Yeah, because again, high key is going to be low contrast, so I want to almost eliminate that shadow in this case. I mean, if I had more lights, if Profoto wants to send me some lights, along with Apple sending me that computer, I would use 2 lights and maybe do a clamshell here. Keep it really even, right? And what this is giving us here is your classic kind of high key.
Potentially raise
Could
the
somebody-
light power.
Yeah, you want to bring the light up a smidge? Now it's time to just tweak it, right? We've got our basic shot. The one thing to remember about a light meter, whether the light meter is a handheld light meter, whether it's a TTL exposure from the Profoto, whether it's the meter in your camera, the light meter is telling you what it thinks is the right exposure. That doesn't mean that you have to use that exposure. If you feel like it should be brighter or darker, do it, right? Try to stay within the dynamic range of your camera. That's the most important part. Because what you don't want to do is make this decision to like make something really bright so it's out of the dynamic range of your camera and then you can't save it later. As long as you're within dynamic range, you have some room to move back if you decide later you hate it.
I have stopped.
Yeah, so Dave's giving it a touch more power. I'm reflecting upon the situation.
Well happy?
I was happy actually.
No.
So she's happy.
Happy that
There she is. Oh yeah, Dave, get a little bit of power. It's nice and bright. This is very, you know, commercial, right? It's a very commercial image. It's gonna be good for you, like if it was a commercial.
commercial again.
If you wanted to do like a commercial, this could be a commercial image. And again, we're not getting, if you look at her skin, there's detail. Look at how big the mouse gets when I do that. There it is. Oh. I still can't do it when I want to. There we go. Okay, how do we feel about that? Feel good? That made sense? Cool. Now, on the opposite side of things, right? If we want to go low key.
Oh, what would be,
Oh,
right, because I guess we want to talk a little bit shortly about the theory of why you would make an image high key, right? Why would you decide?
right. Okay, good. Right, the philosophy.
Yes, 'cause
I like
I
that.
think the main
I think I
part-
called the class that. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I make up, I drink and I make up names for class. No, I don't really. So, right. This image, I kind of hinted on it, but I'll be more specific.
Oh, that'd be great.
High key images are generally more inviting. They're more open, they're more commercial, they're more neutral, right? So in this kind of image, you wouldn't necessarily want her to be like scowling or that kind of stuff. You'd want happy pictures. You want it to be light and airy. That's kind of when you would use high key generally. If you take a person, this is like a classic thing, you take a person, you put them in this really funky makeup or this really dark outfit and they're all moody and then you just shoot them like this, it doesn't really translate. It doesn't make sense, right? Or the opposite, you have this person like smiling and happy, and it's like this dark, moody, low-key shot. Yeah, it is like a testimonial.
Yeah, like I did such
Yeah.
and such, and now my life
Yeah.
is all better.
Yeah, it's very pharmaceutical. It's very happy-go-lucky. This is like where you want to use these kind of shots. Really, really neutral, right? Does it make sense? You see that, right?
Happy, happy, smiling.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Yeah, be happy. Oh, hold on. Is that the silver side? I can't tell. There we go. One side is like goldy.
There we go. Yeah, cock your head a little bit more.
Probably not me.
Okay, we have the top.
Boom. There, now she's smiling.
That's the toothpick.
Yeah. Oh, except that one crazy piece of hair. What's up with that?
No, it's called character.
Oh, yeah, sure. This right here?
But it's easy because it's over wet.
Yeah. By the way, flyaway hairs are like can be like the bane of like a bow white background, like, or dark backgrounds even worse. But you just want to watch that stuff. I like your little curly hairs, but let's shoot one where it's not sticking out so much.
Okay.
You know, because the client doesn't like it.
Do you need me to fix it?
Yeah, I
or-
see it.
Here, so.
I
Yeah.
can't see it, so I need you to.
I get extra pay for hairdressing.
There you go.
Is your hair naturally curly like this, or do you get like a? Oh, it's nice.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's great.
It's like ringlets,
It used to be more like ringlets. Yeah.
Oh.
more like ringlets. Does it get more like ringlets when it's very humid out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. There we go. Okay.
There you go.
I like how it
Ta-da! That's gonna be my new catchphrase. I'm trying out new catchphrases. Let's see if we like that one. Ta-da! I don't think people use that enough anymore.
Loving my new ring.
Yes. Aha! You finished eating. Tell me a question.
So this is a great picture, but she doesn't have any catch lights.
Are you sure about that?
No, but doesn't have pronounced catch lights. Does that work better?
So the question is, well, the statement was there was no catch lights, and then it became, does it work better to have less catch lights? Well, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I don't think that a catch light is necessary in this type of a shot because the shot is so open. It's not really an issue. I think in some like really dramatic-y shots, like maybe what we're going to do now, if you have dead eyes, it might be bad, right? Because you're trying to bring them into it. Here, I think her smile and the overall shot works. If you wanted to get the catch light, you would just have to lower the front light a little bit. Again, we have total freedom of where we want to put the light. It doesn't really bother me. I'm not really a big catch light person. There's people who obsess over it, but you know, it doesn't bother me. If you wanted more of a catch light, we could chin up a little bit or light down a little bit.
Yeah, we can pull the light back.
Yeah, pull the light back. I mean, there's a lot of things we could do. Would you want the catch light? Do you guys want the catch light, or do you hate him? You hate this guy, don't you? Oh, you don't know what a catch light is? Good. Oh no, that's good. I'm glad that people. Sometimes I talk and I say things, and you have to ask me because if I'm saying something that doesn't make any sense, the catch light is generally the reflection of your light source in the model's eye. So that. Now, there's a whole like school of thought about catch lights, and there's probably like 1,000. Actually, maybe there's not. There's 1,000 books. I don't know if the people care about it anymore. Maybe they do, and they do YouTube videos about it. But there's all kinds of thoughts about catch lights, like what they should look like, how big they should be, how bright they should be, if they should be round, if they should be square. I'm not a big catch light person. Doesn't really affect me one way or the other. One thing I do tend to do, which we never really do in here, is, although we get a bit here, because you see how she has nice color in her eyes? If we were to make it brighter, right? So let's say shine a light in her face. Her pupil would become smaller, right? The black part. If that happens, then we get more color in the eyes. So there is a school of thought, and I sometimes will do that in portraiture, where I will use an additional hot light that is still less exposure than my flashes, but that's blinding the model. But we didn't pair enough for that. You got to pair them off for that. And what that does is actually makes more color in the eyes. That's something that I sometimes do for the eyes. I don't care as much about the catch light. I can tell you we get equal amounts of, we'll say comments. I was going to say complaints, but comments about catch lights being too big as we do too small. But there's lots of ways to do it. One thing I definitely would recommend though is you have to watch it, right? Because the catch light, if you're only using one light to light your subject, which we are here, and your catch light is very prominent in their eyes, it will be white. almost certainly, right? Because it's the light that's lighting them, which means that it's reflecting back white. Which means if it's too big, you might lose a lot of their eye to the whiteness of it, right? If you're shooting with a lot of lights, or the light's further back and it's kind of bouncing around a lot, let's say you often see this when you see like big windows behind somebody, the catch light is not as prominent. It's in their whole eye, but it's not as bright, so it's not as distracting. So see how it's white there? That's some people see that as a bad thing, because now there's a white square in her eye. This is when you get into the idea of, okay, let's use umbrellas, because umbrellas are round and people like round catch lights, and and then that's, or octagon or whatever. That's actually pretty much where octagon lights came from, is people wanted round catch lights but didn't want umbrellas, flying lights everywhere. So I just made that up, but it sounds right. That's like what people use octagons for. I don't know if that's true or not. Somebody Google that, but that seems like it would be, because catch lights used to be a big thing. Yeah. So there we go. Bigger catch light if you like.
But she has, like, for example, great blue eyes. So if you're trying to highlight those without huge catch lights, how do you do that?
Well, right. If you're trying to get more color in her eyes, you would do exactly what I said. What you'd need to do is you'd have to. It's not dilate, because dilate is bigger. What do they call it when your pupils become really small? Or is that dilate?
Yeah, you just let her
Oh, okay.
outside for
Yeah, you would need to make it brighter. We could literally shine a light in her face. It sounds mean, but yeah,
It is
that's,
mean.
we're paying her. You wouldn't necessarily want to do this for a portrait client who's maybe not that friendly, but you literally would just shine a light on her face and basically blind her, and then turn the light off. Or if it's not that bright, it wouldn't take much. But that's what you could do. You basically shine a light in their face. It'll make their pupils go really tiny, just like when you step out in the sun, whoosh, and then boom, you got color in the eyes. That's it,
Do the opposite. Have them close their eyes and then open right before they flash so that people hard.
Oh, that's interesting. That might work. I don't know. I've never tried it. So the idea of like having their eyes closed and then open really quickly, that would do what? Make them big black.
Right.
So that's more like if you want a big black pupil. Or you can put those eye drops in they do when they take the picture of your eyeball. You have glasses. You know what I'm talking about, right? Oh, God, it's terrible. Oh, you have glasses. If anyone's ever had their eyes checked, they put this drops. You also have glasses? You've done it probably too. Everybody who's has glasses probably has done. They put these drops in your eyes and they make your eyes look like they're, oh, God. And then you end up walking around because you can't drive after, and you're just like, okay, I can't go anywhere, and I'm like blind.
Get myself one like this.
Yeah, it's like you can't see anything.
The best is when you have a scratch when they put the colored drops in.
Oh, yeah.
Change your vision.
So yeah, there's all kinds of weird stuff they do with the eye doctor. But yes, if you wanted to do that, I would throw more light in her eyes. Not because they need to be brighter, but because it would make her pupil act differently. That's one of the downsides to using a flash, right? Is that you can use a flash in a very dark space and still shoot at f8 and everything's fine. But what ends up happening is you get these really big black eyes, which you may or may not like. So the way to overcome that is to put a light on them. We used to do it for focusing, back because cameras didn't have autofocus. You would, or use a medium format camera, and you'd have a bright light on them when you were focusing on it anyways, so that would just naturally happen. But if you're using really good, the cameras nowadays, the autofocus is amazing. So like it's like dark and you're just shooting and yeah.
And the modeling lamp would not do that trick.
The modeling lamp is probably not bright enough in this situation, no. It depends on the person's eyes, really, but it's probably not bright enough. I don't think the modeling lamp is much brighter than the lights that are in here. I mean, we have windows open. We got, for people who are online that don't know this, we have like these ARRI 300s lighting us up, and we're pretty lit here. Yeah. Surprisingly, it's most people's homes or possibly studios aren't lit like this normally when they're shooting. We're basically a stage here where we put on our show later. Dave juggles. Yeah. Okay. We might live stream that as well. Okay, so I think we're going high key. That's why low key rather. That's why you write it down. Yeah. Yeah. People that are obsessed with catch lights oftentimes like. Oh, the other thing, and this ties into that. Sometimes people will use those fluorescent ring lights for that purpose. Oh, you have one of those. That also does that. The fluorescent ring lights.
That was here.
Oh, you were just using it here? Yeah. Basically, they sell these fluorescent ring lights, which are. If you're a makeup artist, do not buy this and they put makeup on people. They always do it. I don't know why they do. It's like the worst thing. But anyways, for this, it's like literally a giant ring that's fluorescent light. And you put it, boom, right in front of the person. And of course, it's really bright, so it makes their eyes crunch down, and then you get all the color. You also get that circle if you like that look. If you don't like the look, you could just expose with the flash brighter than it, and it'll go away for the most part. So remember that. The flash can overcome that light. So, and they're pretty inexpensive. I had bought one, but I left it on the train. So whoever has my light on the Metro North, I hope you're enjoying it. Yeah, they're pretty cool. It is a fluorescent light by its nature, unless you buy a very expensive fluorescent light, it has terrible color. And I'm obsessed with color, so like that would be a problem for me. These are not that expensive. I would say less than $100, or around $100, depending on when you get it. Bless you. You're making Dina sick.
Yeah. Does she need a tissue?
Do you need a tissue? Do you need a tissue? Okay. Good. I feel like I always have either like 20 boxes of tissues or none. There's never a situation where I have like a few tissues. It's always like I have tons of them or nothing. I don't know why. Anyways, now we're talking about, we're going to go low key. So low key is high contrast. The main way that we're going to accomplish that is we're going to keep any of our light from hitting the background. I mean, we could, of course, do the low key shot, which is the silhouette, right? But we already did that. We did that just by the nature of setting up the other shot. So, all we have to do is do how just the same way we started. We want to keep our exposure at a place where when we make a photo with no flash, the background is black. If you miss that, tune in next week at noon because I do it every single week we use flash. If you're that guy that comes at 2 o'clock, he's not here yet, right? The guy that comes at 2 o'clock that always comes late and misses it, yeah, watch it at 2. Yeah, and I say it online. It's basically, I mentioned at the beginning, it's one of those really basic things that you just do naturally. Like whenever you're using flash, do that. It is exactly the opposite of what you do when you want to, like, let's say, shoot an event and you want to pick up the ambience in the room. Then you want to expose for the room, right? So this is the photo that you get when you're using like a point and shoot camera really close to somebody with a built-in flash, because it just does this automatically. But like people doing it, don't think of it when they're using a flash. Okay, so anyways, we're going to light her in a very contrasty way by having no light on the background. So Dave's simply going to turn those off, which he already did. And then he's going to bring our light source very close to her. He's also added to it a grid or an egg crate. That's going to narrow the spread of the light. Because a softbox, remember when I talked about the reflector, the light spreads out from a softbox like this. The grid is going to help narrow that. It's going to give us a more narrow beam, thus allowing us to put the light where we want. If the light, if we didn't have that, we'd have to turn the light very far away from the background to make sure none of it got on the background, and then we'd lose control, right? We want to angle it the way we want to angle it. So she's looking into the light.
I'm just going to see if it's
Bless you. Boy, that's going. It's going around now. She was making her basic. He didn't use the light meter. She's about to sneeze. Right, now we've got some drama.
I'm not far off on the...
No, that's actually not bad exposure-wise. Because we've been using light meter all day, because Sekonic gave me 47 cents, I'm going to use it again. I think there's actually a new one coming out, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, it's got that, it's the
6.3. So here, half stop right.
758.
Yeah, there's a new one coming out. There's all this technology. I still have my Sekonic meter that's...
The replacement for the...
I don't want to say how old it is, but it's older than a lot of people.
So is the...
Yeah. I mean, I have 2 light meters. One is a Minolta
What's the reading?
4F, which I bought in like 1997, right? And then I have the Sekonic that I bought maybe... I mean, I was like a child when I bought the first one. And then I bought the Sekonic like when they first had that Pocket Wizard thing, we could fire Pocket Wizards with it. And yeah, meters last. So it's one of those investments. If you want to get a light meter, it's super useful. A lot of people don't use them these days because you're shooting digital and you can just quickly look at the images. But there's certain times where it's very useful to use a light meter, so it's a good tool to have in your kit. Yeah, I mean, if you didn't have a light meter, what you would end up having to do is literally, I mean, we have TTL, so but if you didn't have TTL, you would just have to do kind of what Dave did the first time. He just took a picture, and then when we looked at it, he could, like you could do this, right? So here's Dave's first shot. Oh, no, not that one. Here's Dave's first shot, right? So let's say you're tethered and you don't have a light meter. I just want to put the picture with her sneezing up there. I like to do that. What you could do is you could zoom into the picture really close to see the face that she makes before she sneezes. There we go. It's not terrible. Nice catch light, right? Then I could just grab the exposure slider and dial it back until, let's say, it looks where I like it. Let's say I like it there. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then I can look at it and, oh, it's about a half a stop overexposed, right? If you think about it like that. Then I could adjust my light down half a stop. And then when I take my next shot, I would basically get this, which is what Dave did. He turned the light down about half a stop, I'm
I
assuming.
went a third
A
because
third.
we were at 60, but I can go half stop.
Yeah, well, it's about a third. It's fine, as long as it looks good. But that's just how you would do it. She's looking concerned there. You know, and now we're low key, right? High contrast. In fact, we might even want to flirt with the idea of blowing her skin out with this if we're really trying to go like for a really high contrast shot. Again, I probably would be wary of just doing that using the exposure from the flash. I think I'd probably leave it where it is.
You want to go?
And then possibly, yeah, I might leave it where it is, and then what I would do is bring it up a bit in post, right? You got to be careful of your highlights. You want to make sure that you're bright, but not killing those highlights, because you don't want to blow out anything where you can't bring it back. Same thing with the shadows. You want to make sure that they're not, if I know ultimately that I want detail here, I want to make sure I have something there, because if I'm pulling back from almost blackness, then I'm going to have a problem, right? So Dave's now bringing the light more to the side to create some more drama. Questions about this so far? Pretty simple. Now, low-key stuff you're going to use when you want to create, again, drama or mood or mystery. Mystery is a big one, right? We can hide parts of our subject with the shadows, right? And by hiding things, that makes the viewer have to, you know, make an interpretation of what they think, which can then, you know, with a very expressive subject, create some really interesting, you know, really interesting images. You gonna try that? You're just gonna go fully from the side?
Yeah, we're from the side now.
Cool. All right, we're going from the side.
Slightly from behind almost. So.
Yeah. From the side, slightly from behind. That's how Dave likes it.
And then
Let's see what it looks like. We're gonna have probably a dark face on one side. This will be that like, more or less. And again, these different types of lights will work better or worse on different subjects, depending on what you're going for, right? It's kind of interesting. This is very like 80s horror movie poster, right? Dun, dun, right? It's a smidge dark, but I actually kind of like that it's a smidge dark because I think it has a nice feeling to it, you know?
I feel like it's too dark to be low key.
Right, it is definitely too dark to be low key.
More of a high key
Well,
at this point.
yeah, there is actually a certain amount of stops that technically, if you look in like the cinematographer's guide, like makes it high key, low key. But you know, we're photographers, we don't get that crazy. But let's just add a reflector before you do anything.
Oh, I'm gonna raise it up half stop.
Okay, Dave's gonna give a little more power. I'm gonna reflect in. I'm reflecting in because I want to fill in on her face a little bit just to see what it looks like. So I'm literally just taking the reflector and I'm bringing it right here. Again, I know where my light is and I know where I want my light to go. So I'm putting my reflector so it reflects back where I need it to. This is again silver reflector, right? Oh, that's weirdly interesting, but terrible. It definitely has a certain mood to it, right? But actually what I really want to do is this.
Want to do a, oh, that's gonna be the shot. Still.
I think I'm trying to see if I can get a little bit on the backside of her hair. Nope. Okay, so because of the inverse square law, look that up online, we're not able to get the hair separated on that side, so we can't get that three-dimensionality if we wanted it. What we'd have to do is add another light source, which we might do because I always like double
We
in.
could make the main, try the main light as the air light situation. Do a
Could do that.
or a profile picture or whatever.
Yeah, let's do that first. So turn towards the reflector. So what we're going to do here, right,
So I need to raise
is we're going to raise the power of our main light. It's going to go past overexposing her hair. It's going to pass her, and then it's going to bounce off this reflector, and then it's going to come back and light her face. Right?
the meter real quick.
Yeah, we're going to do a quick little metering of this.
So I need to raise it quite a bit.
Oh, interesting.
We're at 2.
Well, I think too, in order to make this work, you've got to raise this and tip it to make it really work.
Probably. Let me see if it's closer, and then we're
Yeah.
it's 10, so there should
Yeah.
be pretty hot back here.
Yeah, about 2 stops. So right now we're metering it out. We're roughly we're going to be roughly exposed. No, leave it there. Let's just see what it does. I think it's good for people to see stuff when it's not working, right? Because you can kind of see, or maybe it will work. Who knows? This is almost 2 stops overexposed coming from the back. So her hair is going to be very, very glowy and hot, and the front is going to be 1 stop under. So it's going to create kind of an interesting shot. the little tag was sticking.
Yeah. Okay. And that's in the shot.
Okay. Ultimately, we're playing around here to see what this looks like. Oh, interesting. Huh. It's actually not terrible. I mean, exposure-wise.
Yeah, I think if we pull it back,
Yeah.
inverse.
So see, we're overexposing here. We don't want that, right?
Well, we can't pull it back too much.
So there's a few things we can do, but I don't want to dwell on this one anyway. So let's just go and use a secondary light source, which is what I prefer to do, because they pay me by how many lights I use. So basically, we can do the shot we were doing in the beginning and with the half face. But if we want to make it, if we want to give it a little bit more dimensionality, although I kind of like the half lit face. You know what? Let's play with this a little bit. We're going to play. Let's just add light to her eye. Right? What do you think about that? If I use a reflector, it's going to fill in her whole face, right? But if I just want to give a little bit more light to that eye so it's not completely in shadow, so still keeping this vibe, right? This kind of like, you should be in like an 80s horror movie. You know, it's the hair.
I've done a couple of horror
Oh, have you? Yeah, you look like a horror person.
films,
Yep.
but just doesn't die.
Yeah. Are you the person that ends up, that lives at the end?
I have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like-
I've also died.
Oh, really? See, I don't think so. You look like the person that would be the, kill the bad guy at the end.
Yeah. I was in one. It was a short years ago, and the two protagonists both died.
Oh.
And so.
Oh.
Killer wins in that one.
Oh, interesting. Everybody dies.
Want to do a grid?
Yeah, I'm gonna add a grid to this. I actually think a grid and a gel, just because that's how I roll.
Oh. Then
But let's just start with
wanna
the
go-
grid. Yeah.
I'll put on the side red.
Okay.
It's always
Yeah.
the dramatic one.
So what we're doing here is I'm gonna add a little bit more light to this eye, and I'm gonna use a grid to do that. So the grid, just like the grid on the softbox, is going to narrow the beam of light. This is a 10-degree grid, right? So I'm gonna take my light and I'm gonna basically point it at her face. It's easy as that. I will unplug it. This is a ProPhoto B2. I don't know if I've been saying what everything is all along. I think I unplugged the wrong light. No, I didn't. Okay. Okay, so I'm basically gonna take this light. Oh, I probably gotta do it this side, I guess, right? And I'm gonna put it over here. And I'm gonna basically just aim it. There's a lot of ways we could do this. I think I'm gonna just be a little, that's not the shot, is it?
Barely is. There you go.
Because I want to fill it, because I want to get light just in her eyeball, I don't want to create any more potential shadows, so I think I'm going to keep it pretty low. Like, in other words, I'm not going to, yeah, there you go. By the way, that's how you can, her eyeballs immediately, yeah. So to answer your question, that would have worked. So what I don't want to do is, this is probably not even tight enough, but I'm going to try it.
Where? 11.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I'm at 9, that's why. So 11's 2, so I'm going to go here because I want it to
One
be a
eye
fill
is
light.
quite a bit brighter because of
Yeah. Let's try that. That's good. Yeah, a little bit under.
Yeah.
So this is basically a fill light. It's about half a stop under the key light, and what we're going to do is it's going to add a catch light, right? And bring a little bit. Now I can't keep with the 10-degree grid. I'm not able to keep all the light off the other side of her face, so we'll see what this looks like. But I think it looks pretty good. It's funny. I can actually see to my eye the catch light in her other eye, so I'm curious. We'll probably get. I'm not in.
Right there, you're out.
Okay. I think that's this light. Yeah. Actually, it's hard to say if it's that light coming the catch light. Cool. Yeah. So now we've got this little baby catch light, right, in both eyes. It's probably a little bit too much on that side of our face. We can play. And also, the exposure's a little bit hot, so we can probably just turn it down. I think that'll probably do it. I'm gonna turn it down to stop. And again, this is where your meter, right, is not necessarily right. We metered it. It was a half a stop underexposed, and I was like, that might be enough, right? I mean, who knows? So,
Not angry, but
essentially what's happening is we've got two lights lighting the same spot on her face, right? We've got our main light, and then we have this light. So it's actually accumulating all the light, which means that we have to be somewhat careful when we start adding lights. It might, yeah, there we go. It's getting better. So now we're getting, that's interesting. What is that light from the window or is that from this? Oh, that's from the window. Ah, we're getting window light back there. We did that on purpose. This is pretty cool. I mean, let's try not to get the softbox in the shot. We're making our 80s horror movie poster, and I'm gonna actually, because I'm in control of it, I'm gonna close this window because we don't necessarily want that back there. Now, what else could we do besides close the window? Let's say we couldn't close the window. We could turn the power of the light up, exactly. We could turn the power of the light up, we could close down our lens. But since I can close the window, I decided why not. Because at this point, we're not fighting power, right? Basically, we've got plenty of power, the light's really close to her, it's not really an issue. Earlier, we were fighting power, so it might have been a problem if we couldn't have closed the window.
So given how the light coming from the
There we go.
is really good, you just wanted to throw some light, why don't we put a barn door and just close the barn door and just put a slit of light on her eyes rather than the grid? So on top of the grid, not instead of the grid.
Why not put a barn door with the grid? I don't think we need it. Why would we need it?
Just because it got the rest of her face specular rather than as smooth as it was with just one light source.
Are you saying instead of the bulb?
Oh, just say just hit her eyeball?
Yes.
Well, I didn't want to hit her eyeball. I wanted to hit this whole area in here that was dark. Good, turns one off and take a shot and see what it's like. Yeah, I don't want to just hit her eyeball. I want to get that shadow that's inside of her nose. I could do that. So you're talking about like a classic like eye light strip. It would be tricky to do with these particular lights. The barn door is not that precise. If I had, yeah. See, I wanted to actually fill in all this shadow, which I do not think is that attractive on her face. It wasn't just about getting catch light. I was just saying that was a benefit if you like the catch lights. What I really wanted was for that whole part of her face to be filled in, right? So that basically we've got that. Right? And again, we can dial the power up and down as we need, depending on what we want it to look like. But it depends on what you're going for. They're both kind of interesting. In a movie, the one on the right, I would totally use it. Like, that's fine in the scene. If she's acting and stuff and it's moody and we can't really see in her eyes, she's moving slightly, I might be okay with that. I might actually do what we did on the left, but be like 2 more stops underexposed, because I don't mind that shadow. In a still photo, it's just too much darkness. Like, I don't want, I can't, you want mystery, but I want to be able to relate to my subject, right? I want somebody to be able to look at my subject and say, you know, hey, I can relate to this person. I don't want her to get, you know, chopped in half by the chainsaw or whatever in the movie. So, you know, I want to be able to see her a little bit more, so I'm giving a little more light on her face. That's all that's about. There's a few different ways you could do it. We do what we did, obviously. You could also just turn her more towards the light. You could turn the light sideways. There's lots of different ways you could do it. Each one would look a little bit different, right? It just really depends on what you're trying to achieve. That was just my idea in the moment. Plus, like I said, the more light you use, the more you get paid. So you don't want to, you know, just use the one light. And this really changes it too, right? Now we've got this, which is just much more of a pretty shot. In here,
This light a little bit, right? Are we? No, actually, we don't.
yeah. Are you still using both lights?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is pretty nice. This gets a little bit more detective looking to me, like a little. So if we're doing like a cop show, that's your other role that you can do.
Sure.
Maybe hair light as well, right?
We want to add a little hair light. Now, I could obviously just light the background, which would give us some separation, but if I do that, then we're not going to be low key anymore, and we want low key, because that's what you guys paid to come see. So I'm going to take this light and I'm just going to start it at the same power as the other one, since I don't really know. I'm using a light meter. Oh, well, I'm not sure if I probably should have aimed it first too. That's good. 2.8. So maybe give it one more stop. So I don't want it to be like a super bright hair light, I don't think. So I think I want to get like about an f4. Yeah, all right. I'm a tiny bit over f4. So I'm about to stop underexposed from where the camera's set, I believe. We're still set at 5.6.
Yeah.
So let's see what this does, and then we'll dial it up and down based on taste.
So then with this one, maybe trim down a little bit more and determine.
Do we buy binoculars as well? We do? Okay. I have to make my announcement. And Andy gives me 4 cents per month, right? So that's once per week where I make the note. Seriously though, it is good when you walk by, so I can mention it. But if you guys have cameras and lighting stuff that you're not using, and binoculars apparently, Adorama buys them. So if you do have stuff, I don't buy them. Don't come to me with it. So last time somebody came to me, I'm like, I don't know. But if you want to bring your stuff in or make a list of it and talk to one of the people here, either Andy in the back or one of the salespeople, or if you're online, you can, somewhere on the website, you can email the used department. They'll give you an idea what they'll give you for it. You can get store credit. You can, oh, interesting.
Yeah,
You can get store credit or you can get cash for it. So if you're interested, keep that in mind. It's still kind of interesting. So there, I made my weekly announcement for that. I'm gonna start taking advertisers. If anybody here has a small business and they want me to advertise it during the thing, I need to make a little extra cash. What about you? Your Etsy shop? Not yet. Okay.
So we're like sponsored.
I should just start wearing sponsored stuff. Although I want Cotton Bureau to sponsor me. Cotton Bureau. What's up? Oh, Dave's throwing a grid on there.
You should buy some emails.
So Dave's adding a grid, a relatively wide one, 20, to get her hair light. I'm assuming because light was hitting the background, and we don't really want that. So this is going to give us, again, a controlled amount of light.
And if I need to raise it by.
Yeah, obviously it eats up a little bit of power because you're putting the light through something. So he's going to raise the power up a smidge. Questions about this? Thoughts? Concerns? Anecdotes? No? Anybody want to read a poem or anything? No? We should do like a poetry jam.
We should do a bunch of stuff here. Talent show.
Talent show. We should do a talent show. You guys get talents? You dance. I can tell. Yeah. Is that what? Hold on.
Let's see how that comes out.
Why is my computer say? Oh, okay, that makes sense. I thought it said 11. I was like, 11? That doesn't make any sense. We're totally running over.
When we started, we've been going back in time.
Yeah, we've been going back down. This is actually really interesting what's happening here.
I think we're a bit too bright on the front.
But see this?
Catch light. It's hard.
That is specularity from the hard light, right? It's both hard and specular. So all the shininess, the titanium dioxide that is in her blush. What kind of blush you got?
It's a Stila cream blush.
Yeah, Stila cream blush, right? So it's got titanium dioxide in it, and that is a reflective thing, right? That's to make you look like. We'll get a little. You didn't know you were getting a makeup class here, but the titanium dioxide adds glow, right? This gives her this glow because it's the winter and you're not out in the sun, so you don't have that natural glow.
Sure not.
So she gets the. So that's really cool. But if you're a fashion photographer or a beauty photographer, you do need to be careful about how hard of a light you use, because you could start to lose detail. And you see how the skin starts to. This is by the way, this is when the models start to hate you when you show them like closer pictures of the face. But you have actually very nice skin, very nice. So right, that's fine. The one right there. You mean the zit right there? I'm showing everybody online. So
That's the one.
you're getting some glow. I actually like it for a character portrait. I don't mind that that's a little bit hot, and actually it's not blowing out. But if it's too much for you, or if it's more of a beauty shot or a portrait where you want it to look a little nicer, you may want to turn that light down. I'm guessing is probably the simplest solution would be to dial it down. The other thing you could do would be to add some diffusion to it, but I don't think it's going to be enough. So because it's pretty specular, I think because part of it's the angle.
I think it's cool. I think that we'll.
No, I like it. It's very cop show. You're very cop show.
Thanks.
Yeah. I could see you arrest somebody.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
criminal. Yeah.
Serious business.
Yes.
What are the dimensions of the softbox you're using?
Okay, good. So the dimensions of the softbox are, it's a 2 foot by 3 foot softbox. It's kind of standard softboxy size. I think in Shimira they call it a small. This is a Profoto one. They just call it 2 by 3. I guess they tried to keep it easy.
Is this considered a small softbox?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is a Profoto OCF one. The smaller would be 1 by 3, so you can get a skinny one. You could also get a 1 by 1.5, I think, is the other size they make. But Shimira makes the next size down that Shimira makes is 16 by 22, and then they make a 12 by 16. Each.
Probably when you go smaller than this, right? If you want, even if you want contrasty lighting.
Right. So would you go smaller for portraits even if you want contrast? Well, it depends. I mean, I like to have all different size softboxes. I generally, the idea being that the softbox, the light is softer the bigger it is relative to your subject, right? So if you're photographing, because you're saying for portraits specifically, like for a person, this is a good size because it's bigger than most people's heads. If your head is bigger than 2 foot by 3 foot, then that's a whole other thing. But so it's going to always be soft, even if you back it up a smidge. The smaller ones can be really nice if you need more control, but you generally have to keep them closer. So it depends. Like I like the next size down, 16 by 22 is I use a lot when I'm doing singular portraits of men. You know, because it gives me a little bit more control. Remember, if your box is big, it's soft, so that's wonderful, but also it's spreading out, right? So a smaller box closer will give you more control. So like the 12 by 16 box might have been good here with a grid on it instead of using the specular light if I had one, but I don't have that. So yeah, but yeah, if you're just looking to buy something, like you're starting, if you will, this is the size to get. Like 2 by 3 softbox, you'll never regret having that. This is really nice, and I think we have to wrap soon.
Yeah.
We're really pushing the limits here because we're not sure. There's a theory that if we live stream too long, then the video gets screwy,
I think it's okay as of now.
or it just got fixed. Who knows? We're not really sure why.
I think I pressed a button somewhere. I don't know what I did.
It's going. I haven't seen you in forever. Okay, so we're gonna stop as soon as Dave gets his last amazing picture. Isn't that the worst? He has to get a good shot now because this is the last shot people are gonna see when they're online. If it's like a terrible picture, it's gonna be like, well, Dave, sorry.
Yeah.
Don't screw it up. This is the last shot they're gonna see.
It's not so good.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's kind of fun. So we've got this versus this.
The other direction, yeah. Just to kind of like
Yeah,
keep
to give and the scowl is good.
Yeah, I like this.
It's very Terminator,
I was thinking it looked like a vampire right before an attack.
or like a vampire.
You know?
Oh, interesting. I could see that. Did you like that show, True Blood?
I never watched it actually.
Oh, interesting. There's a lot of vampires in that show. It's basically about vampires,
I've heard, yeah.
not the sparkly kind of vampires, but the like more mean kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sparkly ones are that. What's the sparkly guys?
Twilight.
Twilight. Okay, so we're gonna break now. We're gonna stop streaming. Just so you know, if you don't know this, we stream every day at noon. So if you somehow jumped into the stream late, every Thursday at noon that I'm here, which will not be the 9th, although maybe we'll figure something out. I'm not gonna be here. I'll be at WPPI. Is anybody going to WPPI? Nope. We wanted Dave. I wanted Dave to do it without me, but Dave doesn't want to. He was like, no. So we didn't. There wasn't enough time. So maybe during NAB, I'll convince Dave to do one without me. Although if he does it better than I do it, then I'll be screwed. So maybe I shouldn't do that because he probably will. Sometimes Dave does them with Fernando though, like as a team. It's always good to have 2 people when you're doing a presentation. It's hard to. Or more. Sometimes 3 to 5 people is good to have as well. Anyways. I got just once again sidetracked. So noon every Thursday. Next week we're doing speed lights. I believe I said it, so we're doing it now. So if you guys are interested in making portraits of speed lights, please come next week, 12, 2, and 4, or watch online at noon. Make sure that if you watch online that you ask me all kinds of weird questions that I probably won't answer unless Chewie remembers to tell me. And you can see Rosie at rosie.com. If you go there, it's probably not. Yeah, I'm not responsible for that. And thanks, guys. Okay.